The meeting of the Finance Committee to order. The date is February 27th. The time is 3:01. With us today, we have Alderwoman Bade, we have Alderman Tolliver, Alderman Warman, Alderman Bug, and myself, Alderman Franco. First item is 25-0156, approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on February 13th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Bade, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, anybody from the public wishing to speak?
No, we do not.
Okay. Then we'll go on with the agenda, 24-0915, a resolution authorizing Director of Purchasing to enter an agreement with Upland Design Limited of Plainfield, Illinois, in the amount not to exceed $160,000 to design renovations to Garfield Park.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ian Wade with the Engineering Division. So the city was able to obtain a $600,000 matching fund grant through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources OSLAD program, Open Space Land Acquisition and Development. We submitted that for improvements to Garfield Park. Once we were awarded that, we published a request for qualifications to select a designer to help us implement some of the improvements that we had identified through a series of public meetings and an online survey. We got a really nice, healthy response. The public was quite excited about this project. For those of you that are familiar with the area, it's due for an upgrade, so we're quite excited about it. As you can see on the attachment, the panel of 3 city staff did unanimously select Upland Design to provide those services. We did get a quote from them for an amount just under $130,000 with a stipulation that any increase in scope would also warrant a slight increase in their design fees, which is why we're asking for the $160,000 just as kind of a contingency in case that we do see a little bit of an increase in the construction scope that they develop, though we don't envision it going too much over that $129,420. So I guess with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions from the committee or comments? Alderwoman Bade.
Just wanted to ask, there is nothing like this in city right now. This will be new kind of equipment and plan for the park.
I guess I can't speak to the city's inventory on what we do or don't have. I think it'll certainly be more state-of-the-art than any of our existing facilities, and we will definitely have the best of these amenities that we are seeking.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
All right, so we have a motion by Alderwoman Bade, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. We're going to skip 25017, come back to that later, and go to 250148, a resolution authorizing the execution of a modification to a redevelopment agreement between the City of Aurora and Community Housing Advocacy and Development to modify loan terms of Project Home 2010-01.
Good afternoon. Chris Ragona, Director of Community Services. The next 4 items are all related to each other. So the city conducted as part of just normal monitoring of all of our outstanding projects. So we took a look at all of the agreements, the mortgages, the notes, the land use restriction agreements, just to make sure that everything was matching and meeting home requirements. These projects were completed over a decade ago, so we did want to just take a fresh look. The purpose of these is to match the completion dates. It's to match income requirements, clarify units, clarify our performance periods. In the event of a HUD audit, we could be asked to change all of that, so we do try and get in front of that to maintain good standing. And then in one of the agreements for item 25-0151, we are requesting to change the HUD compliance period from 15 years down to 10, but at the same time add an extended use period at the city level. And the point of that is really to reduce risk. So within those last 5 years, if the development Let's say the owner goes bankrupt or it's no longer in compliance with the home rule, the city could then step in and work with city council on a solution rather than potentially having to pay the money back in the last 5 years. So with that risk reduction, we're also going to be meeting all of the home requirements, but there will be no exchange of money or anything like that. So it's really just a cleanup of all of the legal docs. And I'm happy to answer any questions on the next 4 items.
Okay, well, let me do this, and let me read them all, and then when we approve them, I'll just have to read the number up, but I want to make sure I read it all into the record. So we have 250148, we just read, 250149, a resolution authorizing the execution of a modification to a redevelopment agreement between the City of Aurora and Community Housing Advocacy and Development, modify loan terms for Project Home 2011-01. 25-0150, resolution authorizing the execution of a modification to a redevelopment agreement between the City of Aurora and Association for Individual Development to modify loan terms for Project Home 2012-01. 25-0151, a resolution authorizing the execution of a modification to a redevelopment agreement between the City of Aurora and Association for Individual Development to modify loan terms Project Home 2013-02. With that, does the committee have any questions or comments about any of the 4 we just read? Alderman Bug.
Thank you. Let me first jump down for clarification on 25-0151. In your attachments, and all of them, you have the address for the property except for 25-0151. It just says 2 units. It doesn't say an address.
Let me take a look here for you.
In the cover memo,
Oh, certainly. So that address is 843-845 Bowditch.
okay.
So we can make that clarification for committee.
Yeah,
approval.
if you could just
Certainly.
update it for,
Yeah, it's in the summary, but it's not where the other ones were in that little
Yeah,
chart, right?
okay.
Yeah.
And then, if you could just give us a little background, like you said, these were put in the program over a decade ago. How were those sites selected? What was the city's role? What was the, federal government's role?
So the federal government has no role in the selection. That's between the city council, and our partners.
Okay.
Certainly, we have to meet all of the requirements of the various grant programs that we submit for city council approval. I'm not exactly sure if these items were vacant at the time. They certainly were not new construction, but typically when we have smaller scale projects like this, we work with a developer or a nonprofit who identifies sites that work well. And that could be a factor of both the acquisition price and the dollars in rehab needed to make it, safe and sanitary without any further code violations. So we had one of these maybe about 3 years ago where we worked with the Neighbor Project on an acquisition, and they proposed that site to us. City staff completed their underwriting to make sure that it was going to be a viable project, and then we submitted it for approval.
Okay. I don't want to hold any of these up. I'll just contact you directly. I want to get just more information on a couple of the properties and how they got in the program.
Okay,
Yeah.
certainly.
Okay. So with that, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, let's start with the first one, 25-0148. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Alderwoman
Second.
Bade, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next is 25-0149.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Bade,
Second.
second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next one is 25-0150.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Bade.
Second.
Second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. 25-0151.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderwoman
Second.
Bade, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that also passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is 25-0171, a resolution approving a service agreement between the city and the county of Kendall for the provision of demand response transportation through 2027.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Finance Committee. Alex Voigt with the Mayor's Office. And I am joined today by some representatives. We have Jennifer Baralt from Kendall County and Nate Kloster with the Voluntary Action Center. So if there are specific questions to this item, they're here as well. So the memo did provide some background on this item, but ultimately the City of Aurora participated in a Kendall County managers meeting back in August. And it was at that time, one of the items on the agenda was the need for funding for the Kendall Area Transit Program. Aurora was listed as one of the communities that has residents that utilize this program, but we were not providing funding. So we took the opportunity to review the information they provided and then met with Kendall County, and they provided additional Aurora-specific information, which is in your packet. So just to run through the information here, currently they have 18 of the 23 buses meet the age 4 disposition, so they have some transit needs. They do not have enough buses or drivers to meet the current demand, and right now they're turning away approximately 130 requests per month. And then due to the limited and capped funding, that's why they were reaching out to the communities that actually utilize the program. So the information below in terms of the population is as of the 2020 census. This is the information, the most current information that we have. And Aurora residents account for about 31% of the rides. And I should also add that Kendall County is not in the Regional Transit Authority, so they do not have access to PACE or the other current public transit. So the program is primarily grant funded, and there is a downstate operators assistance program. This is known as DOPE, and they offer a match for all funds provided by municipalities. So all of the money that Aurora, that we're proposing to contribute, will be matched, which is an important factor. So the increased DOPE funding will allow them to meet the current demand, ensure continued operations, and then invest in the program to help it grow. This is just some Aurora-specific ride data, and as you can see, it's been very consistent in terms of ridership, which we felt very comfortable accurately provided a picture of the need for this. And then I apologize for the eye chart here, but what Kendall County initially their ask of the communities was to fund the program to start. They provided a starting number, which for Aurora was about $4,400, and then increase it by that amount over 3 years. But after reviewing the information and realizing the value of the matching DOPE funds, we opted to come before the Finance Committee to ask for the full amount. So it's the $13,370 over the next 3 years. And I did also want to add that the other communities that were asked for increases, most notably Oswego and Yorkville, they did also increase their contributions based on the information provided. And that's it. I can take any questions, or I'm sorry, Jennifer and Nate could take any questions.
I have a question. So
Sure.
we went from not providing anything,
Correct.
saying that we should because they're providing for a service,
Yep.
to a graduated system that, let's just say their first year, was that first year gonna cover our people, or was it not even enough to cover our people? And the reason I say that, because we're gonna jump from what they proposed and say, no, we're gonna give you 13,000. I just wanna make sure that it's fair to both sides. So, meaning that, are we paying 13,000, we should only be paying 4 for the first year?
No.
So that's really what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you. So the reason that they made the request of the 44, 44, and 44 was to make it palatable. You know, going from 0 to 13,000, I mean, it's certainly a jump, but after the conversations and again, realizing the value of the matching funds, that's what made us comfortable with going forward with the full, or asking for the full amount.
So the 13,000 is our fair share?
Oh, correct.
Because that's really what I want to make sure that both
And
sides don't go
I should
more or
also-
less, they do what they should be doing.
Yep, and I should also add, attachment B in your packet On the third page, there is the spreadsheet that lays out all of the different funding amounts for the different communities. So the 13,000 is specific to Aurora's ridership, our population number. So if you look, all of the different communities have different funding amounts, and Aurora is on the lower side of what the ask is for.
Sorry, Mr. Alexander.
Sorry, if I may,
Go ahead,
Alex
jump in real
Alexander,
quick.
Chief Management Officer and Chief of Staff. So I just want to add, yes, it went from 0 to 13,000. That's, on the face of it, wow, that's 13,000 more than 0. However, what impressed us when we met with the representatives, and of course we have Katrina Boatwright, who has helped the city with data and evidence to create various programs, ridership programs for seniors and persons with disabilities, our ride share, our ride program. But you really need to look at, you know, we didn't want to leave Aurora residents who clearly, and you see the ride data, thousands of rides, we didn't want to leave them in the lurch. And when they related the value of the matching, so it was almost, it is a win-win for us. And so we can continue to pay our fair share for the ridership and provide a very valuable service to, and remember, it's not just regular dial-a-ride, it's also paratransit services. So in this day and age, when transportation is difficult and, you know, we're all concerned about accessibility, this to us, AV and I, when we met with them and talked, and we talked to Chris Minnick, we said we absolutely have to bring this forward and make this happen and continue to make sure that this doesn't fall through the cracks. And all of a sudden, we would be getting, the aldermen would be getting calls where, there's no more ridership. Eventually, it would come back that it was from the city. And so we want to make sure this very valuable program continues.
Alderman Bug, you got a question?
Yeah, I have several statements on this. First of all, understanding that this program has been in existence for a very long time, and the city of Aurora has yet to contribute. So I had this discussion with the Kendall County Board representative before COVID, and we were discussing that, and we're discussing bringing something forward, and then COVID happened. So, yeah, the residents of Aurora, Kendall County have utilized this for over a decade. So we would not want to add up the number of past value that the riders of Aurora receive from this program. This is, like I said, an excellent program. And when Ms. Boatwright was starting out and putting everything together, she had constant contact with them because they really had a model that worked. And I wish it could work in other sectors of the city, the way they've set up this exemplary program. That area in Will County, Aurora, we have a public transportation number out of 100. Our number's 2 out of 100. No, they don't count because they're not part of RTA. But that's how little public transportation we have in that section of the city. For 2 out of 100 is virtually none. And even our parking ride is gone. That happened during COVID, so maybe we're 0 out of 100 now. I don't know. But yeah, this is. I'm glad we were able to step in and do this. And if partnerships, and Ms. Boatwright does a great job. The 4 Points is right near there, so we have people, living 1 street away and trying to, help everybody out. DuPage, Will, as they all come in together. So, and Kane, right there at the hospital. So, yeah, this is long overdue, and thank you for putting this forward.
Alderwoman Bade.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand CARS is just for seniors, right? CARS program, cities CARS, right? So is there
Seniors
still-
and persons with disabilities.
Okay. Is there a overlap of services, or it's just extension?
So if Ms. Boatwright wants to come up and speak, but in speaking to Katrina, after we received the information from Kendall County, what was relayed was that Kendall County has not been utilizing the CARS program, and more than likely it is due to the reliability and low cost of the CAP program. But you want to expound on that a bit
Yeah,
more?
so at this time, we don't have riders that are approved that are in Kendall due to our partners. Our partners are located in this vicinity, which are predominantly Kane County riders. And so I think this is the best opportunity to make sure these services are being provided and extended. I think it's kind of a no-brainer to make sure our residents are getting what they need.
And other counties have similar programs that
No.
we can partner with? Like our Caneville, DuPage?
Yeah, well, our CARS program is specific, right, to this
Yes.
area, and we're already maxing out with our dollars to serve those that are in this area. But there are other opportunities to find other partnerships like what we're doing with them. I think this is gonna be a great model to make sure we're serving those that are in multi-counties that serve our area.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Warman.
I just have a comment. I mean, I'll be honest with you, 13,000 sounds pretty darn cheap, you know, to provide such a valuable service. So, I mean, I think we're getting off pretty good. And from what Alderman Bugg said, that, you know, we've freeloaded long enough, and I think it's time that we chip in. So I think it's a great program, and I'm glad we're finally paying our fair share, so.
And again, we do have representatives here if there are any other program-specific questions or anything.
So I have one more question.
ahead.
So 13,000 will be matched?
So if you look at the, actually, well,
And if you
Let
could
the,
please attach this to Legistar. We don't have this presentation.
sure, I can do this. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nate Closter. I'm the CEO of Voluntary Action Center. So we're the nonprofit that Kendall County has contracted with to provide the service. So it's our drivers and, well, it's the state's vehicles, but that provide the service. So first of all, I just want to thank you for considering funding and helping us fund this program. And we love what we do. Our drivers are dedicated to the service we provide and caring for the clients that use our service. I can say a large majority of those who use our service are using it for to get to their medical appointments, to get to you know, even get groceries and get services that they need that they cannot otherwise have the transportation for. You know, we also there's a indirect way that we help other families who are caregivers of these individuals that can't take off work or can't help them get to their doctor's appointments, and we step in and provide that assistance that relieves the pressure off of many caregivers. So there is a big ripple effect of what we do to more than just the client that we serve. We do also provide this, it is a public transportation service, but I will say that we try to give priorities to the seniors and those with disabilities, but we cannot say no to anybody that calls, if you will, only to the extent that we have room in our schedule to fit them in. But again, I just want to thank you for considering this and being a partner in what we're doing.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion approved by Alderman Bade, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 25-0181, resolution authorizing approval of a short-term loan agreement between the City of Aurora and Delicia Bowling for the purpose of facilitating the opening of Soul Spot, a soul food restaurant in Unit E4 at the Fox Valley Mall located at 195 Fox Valley Center Drive, Aurora.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Debo, Department of Economic Development. What I'd like to do, if it's okay, is maybe talk a little macro about this one and the next one, just kind of like what we did 2 weeks ago.
You want me to read that one and then?
Yeah, maybe we
okay.
could do that,
All right,
and
I'll
then
do
we'll
that.
go each one individually,
Sure.
but
All right, so the second one being 25-0182, a resolution authorizing approval of a loan agreement between the City of Aurora and Jamie Gilmore and a third amendment to the redevelopment agreement with Urban Equity Properties for the purpose of facilitating the redevelopment of the vacant commercial space located at ground level at 2 North Broadway in downtown Aurora.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason that I thought it'd be nice to start out in this way, to just talk about both of them in some macro way, is to give some context, and then we could go deep into the detail. When, rest in peace, Alderman O'Connor was here, we always talked about starting with some context, and it left a deep impression on me. So just want to make sure that we understand why we're doing what we're doing and why we're requesting what we're requesting. These two projects are similar in a number of ways. And sometimes when we bring something at a similar time, it's organic. We've been working on these projects, let's say 2, 3, 4, 6 months, and it just so happens that they're coming to the conclusion at a similar time, and that's what happened here. But then sometimes we say, okay, let's see if these lines could cross. A good example is a couple of weeks ago when we brought 2 residential projects in the downtown that were both historic. So again, there was some context to do that together as opposed to doing that separately. Another rationale here is we're talking about 2 women of color that are entrepreneurs that are starting businesses. And it was interesting in Black History Month to do that. We actually had a third that we were considering. We just couldn't get it all done at the same time. But we thought that was interesting in terms of context. The next reason was we're talking about 2 geographic areas that both on a macro and a micro sense need some help. On the macro sense, we've got the downtown, which is doing much, much better over the years. But still, we walk around, the number of vacancies, more foot traffic is needed. So we still have an area that needs some work. And I'm relating this because people ask why this project, not that project, and so on. But I think it's important to understand that this is in the downtown, and we have done much, much better. The rents have risen, a lot more activity downtown than it was when we started. That said, still needs some more work. The other project is in the Fox Valley Mall. Now, I think we all know what's happened to malls in the last 7 or 8 years. Just to give you an idea of some statistics, let's say 8 years ago there were 2,500 malls, and today there's 700 malls. And it's predicted that 87% of all malls will close over the next 10 years. So it's kind of really important to make sure that we are supporting these malls. The Fox Valley Mall, and I think you were all here 2 weeks ago when there was some presentation, and Delicia was honored here by the mayor, and the leasing director was also honored by the mayor in terms of all the proactivity that's being done to get, again, a lot of these smaller, very often local tenants into the mall. So there's a real drive to keep that mall healthy. Another macro point is that mall has received virtually no financial support from the city. We've been all over that mall, and all the apartments that are being built there and the great success that have happened there has happened for a lot of reasons. But I will say that we have been able to do that without significant financial help. And there's been some very small help during COVID to a couple of the tenants in there. But from the projects to make sure that the apartments get built and the senior housing, which is about to start, 900 units, the city has not had to support them in that way. So I just want to, make those general points. And I think let me now go into some detail about, let's say, starting with the Soul Spot. The Soul Spot, the entrepreneur, again, we're going to bring, when we come to the committee of the whole, we'll have the entrepreneur, Delisha Bowling, here again. But again, in the interest of time and to move things along, You met her a couple of weeks ago. We're not going to bring her in right for this finance meeting. The space that we're talking about here is by Macy's, next to the new residential, across from the new residential that is being built. The Committee of the Whole will have a graphic showing, but it is the space where Catherine's just opened. It's on the other side where the, what is it, the kilted, what was it? The kilted quilt, the tilted quilt closed about 6 years ago, I think it was. I will say, so that is another similarity between the two deals that we're talking about. There's been long-term vacancies both here and in the downtown project. The Broadway Diner closed about 20 years ago, and even since we did the deal with the terminal building, that space has been vacant for the better part of 4 years. So we got contacted in mid-December about Mandy's restaurant, very popular restaurant in Bolingbrook, closing down and wanting to locate at the mall. They were already in some discussions with Centennial, the mall owner. That said, it became clear to us that some help was needed, both in helping prepare financial statements and so on. A lot of what MOA does, you see us up here talking about money issues and so on, but a lot of what we do is help these entrepreneurs get ready to do what they need to do. So in that case, we used the Women's Business Center and so on. They did a wonderful job in terms of preparing financial statements and so on. But in doing that process and preparing the budget, it became clear to both Centennial, the entrepreneur, and to us that there was some short-term funding that needed to happen. And in your package, I don't want to go over all the details, we describe exactly what the $75,000, which is the request here, would be used for. About a third of that would be working capital. Other monies would be for equipment, signage, there's some electrical work and so on. The Centennial is putting in $112,000. We would be putting $75,000. The entrepreneur is bringing all their equipment that they have, which is valued at some number in the order of magnitude of $350,000. They're also spending about $30,000 or $40,000 of their own money. So putting all together, there was a lot of money to go into even a second-generation restaurant. What we do here is we do make some loans. We try not to do something that's a straight grant. We estimated that there was about $160,000 worth of opportunity loss by not having a restaurant in there for 6 years. We figure if we lend this $75,000, we'll get paid back in a couple of years based on the projections, even conservative projections compared to what Mandy's was doing. So we'll facilitate a restaurant going in, make a loan. A loan really is an asset. It's something that the city will get back by generating money that otherwise would not be there. And that's really, I think, the general point of view. I could open up for questions and we could talk any more detail on that before we go to the next one.
I have one more of a philosophical question. So that place has been vacant for 6 or 7 years. Had it been vacant for 6 months, would we be talking about giving $75,000, or do we feel that after a period of time, it's time to move on because nothing else is happening? You know, that thought process.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The answer is no. I mean, I think when we get involved, we're asking the same questions you're asking. You're walking in the mall and saying, what's going on over there? You know, what's going on over there? You're passing the terminal building. Wait, I don't understand. There's a restaurant down there. Why isn't this vacant? So we have the same thing. At some point, it's clear that the market, when MOA gets involved and the city gets involved, it's because the market is not functioning. It's not functioning. We are the last resort. We don't want to be here asking you. We are here because it's not going to happen. So that 6 years could be another 6 years. Then we could be sitting around saying, hey, what happened? And now that trend of, instead of there being positive energy with Catherine's, and so all of a sudden it's going the other way, and then this mall becomes, because it's great to have the apartments, but if this mall doesn't remain healthy, we've got an issue. And we've done a great job, all of us, collectively, you by approving the TIFs and so on, which are really, and the deals that we've made with the school district there, because those monies are really not going to the developer as per the agreements that we had with the school district. We've kept it buoyant, and that's what we wanted to do. So this is part of that process. But no, I wouldn't even talk to them
Right.
unless it was something that was something very, very long-term.
Okay. Questions or comments on this particular one,
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
Thank you. For clarification, the crab boil was in that location for, I don't know how long. I don't want to comment on that restaurant very much. It didn't work out. It was short term, but, so there was another restaurant in there. And I think where my colleague was going, yeah, I also have questions when we're doing individual deals, and you and I have discussed that. So I'm of the mindset, if we have an issue on Route 59, then we start a program, open it up to all restaurateurs on Route 59, and they can apply and we can help them out. Because you can go down the street on Route 59, like there's a market opening up further down, north of Meyer. They're just starting their construction. It's going to be I say long, it will be a while before they open. And could they use a $75,000 loan? I'm certain they could. So, and I understand the mall is different. It's special, but it is part of the Route 59 corridor and what we're trying to build there. The other question I have, and maybe you have the answer to this, at least in that section, Ogden to New York, Naperville has had success now on their side of the street. So Vise has done excellent, and then that restaurant group is opening another restaurant right near there. They're doing very well. So I don't know if it's the attachment of the mall. We're not going to have foot traffic necessarily. It's hard to have foot traffic from our, the apartments are great. They're fantastic for what they are. It's not really a walking area though. I mean, you cannot walk from there to that restaurant without putting your life in peril. You just can't on the Fox Valley Center Drive. So you still have to drive there. So if those apartment people have to drive there, they could drive to the other side of the street and go to Naperville. So we have to have something there that's going to attract them. I don't know why we went from Tilt to Kilt to a restaurant that was there for a short time and it didn't work. And that's sad empty. I don't have that answer, but like I said, I'm of the mindset of opening a program for everyone on Route 59. And there are some issues on Route 59 that we and the developers need to address, but
These are great questions, and these are the questions that we, and Trev, feel free to come up and, so it's interesting. You talk to Centennial, and they're knocking their heads against the wall. Capitol Grill, why aren't they here? Why would they come, to West Bridgecourt or Heritage Square? Why? It's across the street. I personally, and again, I'd have the planners come up and talk a little bit more about it, but it's got to do with design, it's got to do with visibility, because they don't build malls like that tucked away where you can't see and so on. But even having said that, and Trevor reminded me of this, that Naperville provided a 1% sales tax incentive for the Block 59 development, even though you've got these wealthy companies coming in. So you compare these big companies like Darden, who they own a lot of these restaurant groups, versus an entrepreneur coming in with their own money and trying to make it work, who's having a hard time storing her equipment in Bolingbrook because she's got to pay $15,000. I mean, so it's like such apples and oranges. And you say, And could we just wait for the Capitol Grill to decide to come across the street? And they've been waiting, and they're not coming. And I think what we as a city have done incredibly well is to say, no, we are who we are. That mall is who it is, what it is, and we're going to be proactive. And maybe in doing that, and as the apartments come in, as some of that other stuff, maybe, because the goal is always the same. The goal is for us not to be up here asking you here. I'd much rather be doing some other stuff at Moed than doing this stuff. But at some point you say, when do you stop hoping and when do you do something?
Mr. Alexander, go ahead.
If I may, Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer and the Mayor's Chief of Staff. So let me, Alderman Bug and everyone, I want to level set our mindset and the administration's mindset, because there is some misinformation out there, and I think people need to realize a couple of things. Number one, people think of the mall as just this independent private entity that's just sort of out there. But we look at the mall, and we've looked at the mall since 2017, as another center for potential business and revitalization. So vacancies in the mall, in our mind, are no different than vacancies at the vacancy at Terminal or the vacancy that's in West Plaza. So nothing has ever prevented any business owner in Aurora, at least since 2017, and I've been here since 2000, at any time really, but specifically since Moed in its present iteration, any business owner from coming to the city for assistance, whether it's in an independent business, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a mall owner. We've done that consistently. And so I've also been around long enough where I remember Naperville met with us and said, please don't offer any incentives on your side of 59. Can we in fact reach an agreement? And we chuckled a little and said, no, we're not going to do that, because our goal is attraction and retention. Now let's talk about the mall for a minute. None of us can control the present setup of Route 59 on the outlots on 59 in front of the mall. Years ago, our forefathers here and our planners and zoners approved what basically are a series of outlots that are all full right now. The cigar shop, Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, the McDonald's, the Chase. Right now, in this competitive corridor, everybody wants to be on Route 59, facing. We attracted a wonderful restaurant, the Patio. It's a gorgeous restaurant. Takes up a nice lot there. But then, to David's point about the original design of Fox Valley Mall, it was like every other of those 2,500 malls that used to exist. It was like a spoke and, the hub and spoke, surrounded by a sea of parking. So as long as the big boxes were valid and viable, everybody was happy. But once the big boxes started to go out of business, now they were stuck with this design. And so I'm going to ask for a little more patience for them to get the rest of their lifestyle mall concept done, including the high-end senior housing. And to your point, Alderman Buck, I think then you will see more pedestrian-friendly connectivity between these apartment buildings. Because right now, they're a model for other malls to be repurposed. And when we went to the school district with this concept, we had some very hard conversations with 204, right? But at the end of the day, with the council's assistance, our staff, the school board, we worked out a very appropriate deal. But the heart of that deal was the continued viability and future success of the mall. So now, bonus, in our opinion, we get this wonderful entrepreneur that was able to work this space out. Centennial gave concessions And at the end of the day, 75 grand is what this council in its history has traditionally done through the programs we support at Invest Aurora. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We'd like you and the public to understand that any vacancy is open wherever it is at for people. Now, I don't know what market you were talking about, if you're talking about that Wild Fork market that's north of there that's opening, or you said something about a market. Alderman
Yeah, I
Bud.
believe it.
Is it Wild Fork?
Yeah, I believe that's it.
So Wild Fork, correct me if I'm wrong, went through DST. We explained all our programs, which was what we do at the Development Service Team meeting. They are a very successful national brand. They could have chosen to go across the street to our friends in Naperville, but they did not. And let me remind you, one of the highest grossing Texas Roadhouse in the chain is on Route 59 in Aurora. They left from a side street, low visibility. So we're in almost weekly contact with Centennial, and with the new manager at Centennial, very open, Sam Whitebread, the executive just above in Centennial, we were able to work this wonderful opportunity out for this soul food restaurant. And last I checked, there aren't many really good soul food restaurants in the western burbs. And so at our level, the mayor and I, when we met with MOED, to us, this was a very natural and appropriate thing to bring forward. And we're very excited about this opportunity, and we're also excited about the terminal opportunity as well, which is the same concept. And I don't really want to repeat myself, but we're open to working with landlords and owners. That space is ready to be developed. It didn't happen, but the building is, what's the occupancy of terminal? Is it full? Full. So we're excited about that too, a diner concept that we don't have. We haven't had one since the old Broadway diner, right? And they're excited to be near the Paramount and on a busy intersection.
I can get to it, but I just want to say that the Finish Line Grant program has been changed to be all through the whole city. But this deal wouldn't, because Finish Line is a reimbursement of 25%, they weren't spending that kind of money, so we didn't qualify. You'll see in the other one, when there's like 900,000 being spent, they would qualify. So that, but we would always try to go to a program. This is last resort. So I know we spoke a lot about it, but if there's any, I don't.
Alderman Warman?
So I have a few questions too, and we spoke earlier today, and I appreciate your time for reaching out to me today. So this 75,000 is coming from that, is this coming from the innovation fund?
It's that transformation fund.
Transformation fund,
Correct.
yeah.
And the great thing about the transformation fund is that, again, I never like to use the word found money, but it was money that, we were yesterday we were at the opening of the data center, the Edged. It was incredible, but it was really through that deal and the negotiations we did with the owner that led to the $16 million, which is part of the transformation fund. So yes, but our goal is to recycle that money. So believe me, we want that money back. Okay.
Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer, and just to expound upon what Mr. Debo was saying a few minutes ago, yes, we did receive that money as part of a negotiation for the construction of a data center out at Eola and I-88. The goal of that, as we talked about when we were going through the budget and when we put the transformation fund together and discussed it, here at a series of public meetings, is the whole thought process of that is that those dollars were to be utilized to encourage economic development, with the thought process being that there would be a return from that economic development coming back into the transformation fund and then going back out into the community in a multiplier type of effect. I would note that included in the RDA and as part of the loan that the business would be getting is the concept of a 5.5% interest rate as well. So we will it's as though we're investing the money and receiving it back through those taxes, those tax revenues that are coming back, and we do get a return on that with the interest as well. And that interest rate actually is more than we would earn if we held the money. So there is a good investment quality to that as well.
And I can't think of two better initial investments out of the transformation fund that we told you all and the public, and when you approved it as being part of our budget, than these two opportunities.
And you talked about what Centennial has, what's their skin in the game, so to speak, so I know.
So they're putting $112,000 into the deal.
And that's through rent relief and?
No, that was cash.
Oh,
They-
cash
no,
into
they
it.
have
Oh,
to,
okay.
because the thing's been vacant for 6
Yeah.
years, so that equipment hasn't been working. There was mold, there's stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
they had to get this approved from their financial partner to put that kind of money, because they wanted to do an as-is deal. Yeah.
And then, this is, our payback, so to speak, is from sales tax, right? So there's, the property tax is still the property tax?
Yeah.
And so
Correct.
this is just, again, it was either $0 as a vacant restaurant or take a chance and give an entrepreneur $75,000 on the chance that we'll get back the $75,000. And the projection to get that money, that return back, was it 2 years, you said?
Yeah, about two and a half. I
About 2
mean, depending on, if she does as well as she did when it was Mandy's, it would be 2 years. We're being a little bit more conservative because she's rebranding, and, you know,
And then last question, so, and kind of Alderman Bug kind of made me think about this too, like how many, people think that Route 59 is just, well, how could there be any vacant spots on there, Is it the location of where it's at, even though, it's not on Route 59, it's just far enough back to where it doesn't, people
Yeah,
just
I
don't
mean-
see it, and that's why it's sat empty for so long?
Yeah,
And how much
everybody-
space is out there like that? I mean,
Right.
if you guys have an estimate of how much other space is out there like that? A lot of vacancy, I mean, I drive around there, but honestly, I don't pay attention that much.
No,
but,
59, I mean, the corridor has rebounded back. We did that
Yeah.
master plan. It has rebounded back. There's that Texas Roadhouse, there's a lot, the Wild Fork, there's a lot more activity on both sides. But again, malls are malls, and they have, and you go into a lot of malls, look how they've all changed their whole restaurant ideas. The whole concept has really changed dramatically, from the old, they still have the food court there, but a lot of places don't even have the food courts anymore. There's not just the demand to do it. A lot of, instead of the chains, you got a lot of the independents in there doing the food and stuff like that. It really has changed.
And then this 75,000 is not really like working capital, it's for equipment purchase, it's not.
50,000 is, 50,000, but quite frankly, looking at the projections, we insisted that there was at least $25,000 of working capital.
working-
Last thing we want to do is use the taxpayer money and have a restaurant not have enough cash to operate.
Yeah.
So we insisted that she have working capital. When we looked at the financials, and the Wabanzi people helped, we said, no, you've got to have this.
And then last question, I think I said that once already, but last question, how many inquiries, just in general, like, how many inquiries do you guys get, if you had to guess, for like, hey, I'm in trouble, I need this, I mean, is it a ton?
It's great, because I love this meeting, because we talk a little philosophy. If somebody calls us and says, what's your incentive program? We want to talk to you, we virtually hang up the phone, because all they're doing is fishing for dollars. If we're working on a deal and getting in the bones of the deal, and there's a shortfall, then we first say, well, maybe we could help. I can't tell you the times where we can't help, or we don't help. And again, to Alderman Bug, we'll talk to anybody about it. And it is tricky in terms of, like you say, why this and not that, the kind of thing. But it's only at the very end. We look at ourselves, so after the mall committed, and after the lease was, after everyone, we asked, and we went to her, we said, we need every dollar. She said, I've got to pay my storage, I got to pay my first month's rent, I got to pay the movers. I can't keep doing this, and that's when we went through it. And then we sent our project managers in, because there's gas lines that have to be redone, and electrical has to, and fire suppression. And so we did all that. We made sure all that was done. So we were trying to make sure that the deal was working. Obviously, if we didn't do that, there would be no deal. If we don't come up with the $75,000, she can't afford to move. And like it's the other deal.
We get about a dozen calls a week. They relay to me maybe 2 or 3 of those once they start vetting them and separating the fact from fiction. But the other benefit, so, you know, obviously, the other standalones, there's property tax. But the other advantage to putting a place like this in a vacant spot in the mall is human nature. I mean, I know I go to the mall. My wife doesn't let me go by myself anymore because I usually go to one place where I'm supposed to go, and then I come out with 3 or 4 bags of stuff from 2 or 3 other stores. So think about the attractiveness of this unique, you know, there's nothing like it in Naperville. There's nothing like it in Plainfield that I know of, or north on 59. It's going to draw people to the mall. So the benefit to us potentially is that sales tax at the 2 or 3 other stores. You know, I have a wonderful meal there, and then I stop at Brighton and I buy my sweetheart a bracelet so that she doesn't get mad when I bring the stuff from sporting goods store. You know what I'm saying? So there's opportunity here, and we're very, Carl knows what I'm talking about. And then the other issue, it is taxpayer money to the extent it's in the City of Aurora budget, but you please remember where this transformation fund came from. We didn't rob Peter to pay Paul. We're not sacrificing something else in the city budget. This came from that original 16 million, and we are following through on what we stated and what you all voted on how it's to be used. So again, I want clarity, fact versus fiction. This is where it's coming from.
Alderwoman Bade.
It says paid through sales, food and beverage taxes over a 3-year period and personally guaranteed. So that personally guaranteed is also within 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like 10 years and?
No.
Okay.
It's- yeah,
So same for both?
Yes, we always have a personal guarantee from the entrepreneur as well.
Same number of years?
Yeah. Whatever the number of years is the loan amount.
Okay.
It's not always
It's
3.
different for
You'll see in the next year, we couldn't do that loan for 3 years. It's much longer.
So I don't know if you can share that information, but at Bolingbrook, they were approximately making 1 million
1.3.
per year? 1.5, okay, got it, thank you.
Alderman Bug, do you have a question? Okay. Anybody else, comments or questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion on this particular item, which I'll say again since I read 2 of them, 0181? Motion approved by Alderwoman Bade, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Mr. Devo, you want to go into more detail now about the second
Yes,
one?
we could go to the
Sure.
next one if it's, okay.
Sure.
So we talked about the similarities of these deals, but there are some differences here too. So we all remember the terminal deal, and there's a lot of analogies between the terminal deal and the Hobbs building. When we did the Hobbs building and we did the terminal building, we all agreed on a certain amount of money. But at the end of the day, Hobbs had to come back separately for the restaurants. I will say that those restaurants are doing well above projections. Reach saw me the other day and said, I'm going to be paying you back both on my loan and my sales tax loan way before you projected, which was good news. But it was a very similar thing here. They did the upstairs, but they kind of ran out of funds for the downstairs. And, you start just like with the Harish and Jay's deal, substantial dollars, about $900,000 to create that space. And it's been frustrating for all of us, right? The terminal building is wonderful and beautiful, but when we walk by it, we don't see the apartments upstairs, we see the vacant space on the downstairs. And it's been 4 years now. So, and there was a tenant originally that was thinking of coming in before COVID, and, that didn't work out and so on, and it's been vacant. So, in just a quick summary, and I will say that, and Trevor reminded me of this, at one of the ribbon cuttings, Justin Fern, the main principal of Urban Equity, said, I've done 60 deals, and the terminal by far was the hardest deal I ever did. It just was a complicated deal for 20 units. And he thought he put $500,000 into that deal, and he ended up putting $2.8 million into that deal. And now we're asking him, because it's his building, to put in more money. And that's a good segue. What is he doing? So he's putting another $350,000 plus another $200,000 of a loan that we're requesting, and that loan is even stronger than a sales tax loan because that's a traditional loan that will be amortized interest and principal right away. So his risk, so to speak, is another $550,000, which is appropriate. It's his building. But $550,000 is not enough to make that deal work because we've got to completely fit out the kitchen, black iron, everything, do everything, venting, HVAC. So we needed another tranche of $250,000, and that's the sales tax sharing agreement, Alderman Bay, that we're looking for there. And that's going to get amortized over 9 years because even at, and the entrepreneur is here, and I would like her to come over to introduce herself because unlike Delisha, who is here, I'd like you to at least meet her, but again, we'll save the big show for Cal. But that's $250,000 that we'll get paid back. And the remaining funds would come from the entrepreneur, $50,000, another $50,000 she's going to have for working capital that doesn't go into the building, and then we would do a finish line grant of $50,000, and all that together equates to the $900,000 that it will take to finally get this deal off the ground, and that's kind of what that's about. Would you mind just introducing yourself, and then we could go into any more detail.
Good afternoon. My name is Chef Jamie Gilmore. I'm the owner of LJ Hospitality Group. We've been in business since 2019, and I started at Lincoln and Montrose in the city. I currently have a space in Fulton Market that does a revenue a little over $340,000. And it's just a counter service. We serve 6 items, so it's a smaller space compared to what we did at the other, where we did over $1.3 million. My background is project management. So before I did restaurants, I was in dentistry. So numbers was pretty much the area that I was proficient in. So currently with our restaurant, I'm looking to create something that is very unique to Aurora. I'm not just looking to come in and make a dollar. What I'm looking to do is create an opportunity for growth and for training and developing individuals in the hospitality industry. That's the area that I'm most passionate about. I believe that it's a space that's a lost cause, unfortunately. I mean, you go to restaurants now, you can barely get individuals to take care of you properly. But I do believe when you invest in the space, when you have owners, that's what I call my employees. They are partial owners because once they are invested, then they understand that they're giving back to their community as well. As far as myself, I've had the privilege of representing the city of Chicago on Food Network. I've also been nominated by James Beard. So I am not classically trained. This is pure passion. And from that, it's been something that has opened up for me very beautifully in the city of Chicago. And as an Aurora resident, I want to bring what I do there to my home. So I'm open to any questions.
I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
I'm not familiar with the term sophisticated diner. What would that be?
A sophisticated diner?
Because that's what it says this will be.
Absolutely. So we use Southern hospitality as our food pretty much. So it's neo-soul. It's Creole, it's a little bit of Southern, but we put a twist on it. So we do just to give you an example, I'll do a shrimp and grit, but it's not just a bowl of grits, not just some sauce, but we do a quick fried grit cake where we put an etouffee over it, and it's a presentation that you've never seen before. It's a familiar taste, but it's certainly something that you absolutely have never seen. And that's what we do. So we also have like a white cheddar sweet potato waffle. So it's different. So we want to give you an experience of an African American cuisine, but not pigeonhole you to just a traditional collard greens and macaroni and cheese. Nothing wrong with that, because we will have that as well. However, we like to elevate your palate so that it makes you hungry for the next time that you come and see us.
Well, you ought to make that like a bumper sticker because that was wonderful. That explained everything. That was great. That's question one. And then I guess the other question, and either one can answer, what do we think the sales would be once you're up and running, the gross sales?
So my projection is based on just from what we've done so far. 1.5 million is what I project from our first year because we definitely want a bar. So being a timeout market, that was the one component I had not done before, and being able to add a bar on a weekend brunch situation, our sales were through the roof. Mm-hmm. So we did anything like between $30,000 and $35,000 in a single month on just a 3-day on 3-day sales.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead. Alderwoman Bain.
Just a quick question. Occupancy for that place, how many people can this place?
So currently the space, because I had an opportunity to speak with Urban Equity, and if we were to do traditional booths or diners, it would only be 75. My goal is not to do traditional booths. I'd like it to be more of an event space where I can do anywhere from 125. So we're not pigeonholed to just have a certain type. So you can do hospitality space where we can host different type of events, as well as have the regular restaurant space.
Okay. And you said African-American traditional?
It's not just
No.
African American.
Okay.
I'd like it to be multicultural. I don't want
Multicultural.
it to be just pigeonholed to just that. That's the lure to the door, but once you're inside, it's definitely a different journey.
And lunch and dinners?
At breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Breakfast, lunch and dinner, okay.
Yes.
We've actually connected Jamie to other great chefs in town, and they're just collaborating about different menu items just that would be representative of our entire culture, because there's no place like Aurora in terms of diverse culture.
I did have the pleasure of, I worked with Chef Cody. I did a pop-up with him at Indiro, and because he had coffee, we did particular menu items where we infused his coffee into our entrees. So it was, I believe in collaboration. I believe it is definitely the currency to expand businesses. I think if you're an island, you will starve. I think it's super important to reach across the street so that we can be a strong community of restaurateurs.
Any other questions or comments for anybody? Well, hearing none, do we have a motion on this particular item?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Bugg, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you too, Mr. Debo. And then we will revert back to the one we had skipped earlier, which would be 25-0147, a resolution authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement between the City of Aurora and North Island Apartments LP to provide a loan in the amount of $400,000 in community development block grant funds for a roof replacement of affordable senior housing development building located at 2 North Stope Avenue.
Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, members of the Finance Committee. I'm Chris Regona, Director of Community Services. This item is to provide a loan in the amount of $400,000 in community development block grant funds for a roof replacement of affordable senior housing located at 2 North Stope, right in the downtown. 2 North Stope is an existing independent senior living apartment building in the former Aurora Hotel in downtown Aurora. This building was originally built in 1913 and was redeveloped by the current ownership team back in 1998. This property has been providing housing to 56 Aurora low to moderate income seniors for the last 27 years. And just a note on affordability, so none of these units have any direct subsidies. These are all below market rents for all 56 units. And generally, all of the units are at 60% median family income. So for a household of one, that's approximately $47,000. But many times the clients or the tenants being served are much lower annual income. So city staff conducted an underwriting review that included multiple walkthroughs, financial underwriting, and the completion of a third-party capital needs assessment for the entire property. So today, the proposed $400,000 loan will be structured to reflect the terms of a 0% interest loan with partial forgiveness. $200,000 will be repaid when the property is sold, transferred, or no longer designated as affordable. The remaining $200,000 will be forgiven 5 years from the rehabilitation completion date. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have a representative from 2 North Stope, Mr. Hugh Ryder, as well as Mr. Dave Debo, who assisted.
Questions or comments from the committee?
So moved to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Bugg, second by Alderwoman Bade. Yes, a roof replacement is pretty hard to say no to, so it's a necessary evil. So we have those two. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that being said, I believe there's nothing else to come before the Finance Committee today. We have a motion to adjourn by Alderwoman Bade, second by Alderman Bugg. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned at 4:10. Thank you.